time for us to launch a brand new weekly slot on the show. It's the AM Agenda, where each week a guest will join us to put a topic or a story on the AM Agenda. We're going to let them come on and argue their case. Colm Boohig, good morning to you.
Sure, Owen. Morning.
What are you putting on the AM Agenda this week?
Manchester United are top of the league in January for the first time since Alex Ferguson's last season, 8 years ago. As much as I love and adore Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the player in person, and as much as I like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the manager, I do not believe still that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the right man to lead Manchester United. And I believe that the club made a massive error in not going for Maurizio Pochettino when Pochettino was available. And Owen texted me 24 hours ago to ask me a very simple question: what are my thoughts on United and Solskjaer? And like a DMC outside McDonald's at 3 a.m. pre-COVID, it all came out. And I was thinking, regardless of the result tonight against Burnley, I still think the same. And I'm delighted that United won last night, because I think that strengthens the point that despite the fact that United are now 3 points clear at the time of speaking of their greatest rivals, I still think overall there could be a better person in charge, and that person has now gone to Paris.
I'm reminded of a period of time where Jurgen Klopp was, you know, a rising manager in European football who many people thought was going to be very good, had already won a league, and Arsene Wenger was kind of winding down his time at the end of Arsenal and slowly deciding year on year about whether or not he would take another contract while the club finished fourth and won the FA Cup. And then slowly they were not finishing fourth anymore. And Klopp was available, and I think made come hither eyes at the Arsenal situation. Was like, yeah, well, that would be great. I mean, imagine me in London, like the whole of England would get behind me. But they did nothing. They sat in their hands, and then eventually Liverpool were like, hang on a second, Jurgen Klopp's available. What? Let's get him. So this is a sliding doors moment for football clubs. You get the right person in, it's a transformative moment in a club's history if they're the right person. But is Maurizio Pochettino, are you not making come the other eyes at the wrong person?
No, I don't think so. I mean, you have to go by, right, okay, Manchester United, the football club, obviously is an incredibly attractive proposition for pretty much every single manager in world football. But Manchester United, the team, since 2013, isn't so much so. And I think that it would have been a brilliant next step for Pochettino, because the one thing that's labelled against him is no trophy. Now, that will probably change in the next 6 months. Now that he's PSG manager, he's guaranteed something. And then by the time his 18-month contract expires, if he gets that far or if he doesn't extend it, then suddenly he might become available again for the Premier League club. And then he ticks every box, because that's the only thing labelled against him, really. I mean, when Pochettino took over Spurs in 2014, they had, I think, was it 2 top 4 finishes in the Premier League before that. And in the subsequent 5 seasons under Pochettino, they reached the top 4 of the 5 times. And the only time they didn't was the first season, where they reached the League Cup final and lost to Jose Mourinho's Chelsea, who won the Premier League as well that season. But the next 3 seasons in a row, they finished third, second and third. And in the 2016-17 season, that second place was 86 points. So they were playing phenomenally well under Pochettino over a consistent period of time, and improving from a club who were seen as the great entertainers of the Premier League, but always choked, never really did it when it mattered. And Pochettino basically made fans of football take Spurs seriously. And he developed the likes of Harry Kane and Dele Alli massively, to the point where, you know, Harry Kane is the player he is now, largely thanks to Pochettino, I would say. And then in his final full season in charge, gets the club to the Champions League final. I mean, it's an incredible achievement when you look at it. And the thing with Pochettino is, and it's all about perception of football, because the last few months of Pochettino's reign, it just dwindled out. And the players stopped listening to him, because he was in charge for a long time in the modern era, 5.5 years. And it is all about perception with this thing, because I would still see Pochettino's tenure as Spurs manager as hugely successful. Just like Jose Mourinho's tenure at Manchester United is seen as a huge failure, despite the fact that in his 2 full seasons, he won the Europa League, the League Cup, the Community Shield, and finished second behind Man City. And still the perception is a total disaster. Wasn't going well for him at all. And it leaves me with Solskjaer. thing with Solskjaer is, I think he's doing a really good job. I think he's doing the best he can. Like, United still don't have a director of football. I really think he's been let down by those above him. And you have to remember that when Solskjaer got this job in December 2018, he was brought in as a stopgap. It was a temporary appointment. He still had a contract at Molde. So everyone thought it was just going to be a short-term fix. Because if you were a Liverpool or Manchester City fan back then, and if you are a Liverpool and Man City fan right now, you still want Solskjaer to be United manager. You want him to continue. Because as much as he is improving it bit by bit, and United are a far cry from the team that Solskjaer took over, which is great, and that's all down to him. He's done really well in that regard. But there is a ceiling that I think Solskjaer is hitting at the moment. His head is squashing against that ceiling right now, as we speak right now. 3 points ahead of Liverpool in January.
Exactly. What a ceiling to have. Like, is Mauricio Pochettino going to come in and be 3 points clear of Liverpool midway through next season?
But it's January. I mean, like Man City, again, at the time of speaking, have 2 games in hand. If they win both of those games, they'll go a point behind United. And you see, I'm really mindful not to come on and just Ole bash, because as Andy Mitten has already said this morning, everybody's doing that online. And it's not fair. And I do think he's doing a good job under circumstances, because when you go back to the start of October, the 4th of October, and that 6-1 humiliation against Tottenham, Jose Mourinho's Tottenham of all people, it's amazing to see where they've come since then. And even a month after that, there was another nadir in the 1-0 defeat at home to Arsenal, and then to lose to Istanbul Başakşehir, which essentially cost United a place in a knockout stage of the Champions League. And everybody was calling for his head online anyway, like the vast majority of people. And it was the likes of Andy coming on with us and saying, no, give him time. Stay with him. He's doing a good job. And I agree with all of that. But what I disagree with is, what are we giving him time for? What's he going to win?
Well, he's going to develop into a manager who understands exactly how to manage at a super club, given that it's a peculiar, weird job that there is really no training for unless you've already managed a super club. And it turned out Mourinho and Van Gaal had done that, and that was no use, because the situation at United is slightly different, and it has its own unique texture. I want to just play you this in case anybody missed it. You mentioned Andy Mitten there. Let's have a look. Here's a taste of what he had to say earlier on this morning on OTB AM. Have a look.
And it's only 2 months ago that a huge number of Manchester United fans wanted the manager sacked. Maybe they should be a little bit more patient as well, because I don't think United will win the league this year. But just imagine if they did. And that some people who call themselves Manchester United fans are calling for the manager to be sacked. And I think if you're a supporter, you get behind the team. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is doing a good job. He's not won anything yet. Nobody's getting carried away. But he's doing a good job and should be given the time and support to continue doing so. He'll bring more players in. It's not likely in January, but he'll do it in the summer. And I think his recruitment so far has been good.
Have some bloody patience, Colm.
I have loads of patience. And I think Solskjaer, as I say, is doing a great job. But I don't know what Andy is waiting for. Because there's only 2 trophies that matter from Man United. It's the Premier League and the Champions League. Now, yeah, we're in a great position in the Premier League right now. I think it's a damning indictment of the rest of the Premier League that this United side are topped by 3 points. But that is the case. We're some miles away from the Champions League. But it's proven that since Alex Ferguson left, the domestic cups are meaningless for those managers. Van Gaal got sacked on the same day he won the FA Cup. The League Cup meant nothing for Mourinho. Europa League meant nothing. And at the time they thought, okay, this is the start of progression, of development. And a year later, United came second, and then it all went kaput. Where Solskjaer has these phases of like mind-boggling inconsistency. Like, the thing that rankles with me is that, you know, United could so easily have lost 1-0 to Burnley, and there'd be no rhyme or rhythm to it. Just as there isn't that they won the game. I mean, Ger, you yourself said this morning that you disagreed with his midfield lineup, and I got the tone from you that United won in spite of Solskjaer because of Paul Pogba. And I go back to it. If Solskjaer left United in the morning, what club would take him? You know, if you're Man City or Liverpool, you want him to stay as United manager. And again, I'm going back like Solskjaer. He won the league with the Man United reserves in 2010. He won back-to-back leagues with Molde in the Norwegian league. They've only won it twice since then, since 2011. Rosenborg have dominated it. And so his only really bad spell was with Cardiff in 2014. And that was a basket case. The ownership was driving the club to the ground, and Solskjaer suffered for that, and he had to go back to Molde to start again. But when Solskjaer was appointed as United manager, it was an emergency situation, and it was a feel-good factor that he came in, and he provided that for the next 3 months. And then Ed Woodward got very excited after that PSG game, as did Gary Neville, as did Rio Ferdinand, as did most of the internet. And there was a contract given to Solskjaer. And as soon as that happened, the players appeared to down tools them. There was the 4-0 demolition away to Everton.
Yeah, but they recovered from then. Okay, so we understand
they've
that
they've recovered, and he has brought it on.
Can I draw an analogy with the start of the Ferguson era, where it was a manager who came in and inherited a dressing room that wasn't his, in a league that was as competitive and inconsistent as the league is currently. There was a great standout side, and there was another good side that kind of ran them close, which is kind of the situation that we have at the moment. And it took him a good 4.5, 5 years to get to the point where the team played consistently and competed for championships. And they lost a couple of championships before that. Like, the Manchester United decided that they were going to go for a manager who was of the club, right? That was they chose this very anachronistic, old school, not modern football idea of bringing somebody in and saying, okay, actually we want somebody who is one of us to lead us. It's a decision, right? That's the thing. But it's not going to be a straight line, because you don't get the best candidate. What you do get, though, is somebody who is entirely committed to this and who isn't going to go ahead for the next 18 months desperately trying to get his next job, or undermining the way that the club is being run from the top to the bottom, because he is of them. In the same way that Ferguson, by the way, completely supported everything the Glazers did publicly. So I think that it's fair to draw some analogies with the early Ferguson years. That worked out okay. I'm not saying that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to be Alex Ferguson, but Alex Ferguson would have been sacked by now if the Man United fans had their way on social media. He would have been gone. But actually, the club decided, no, we're going to ride this out, and we're going to learn from the mistakes, and we're going to give you the opportunities, and that's what's happening.
Yeah, but look at what Alex Ferguson did at Aberdeen before that. I mean, that's why the club backed him. He said, okay, this guy has a proven track record. And you're right, you're absolutely right. He would not have got as long as he did nowadays. There's no question about that. It took him 5 years to get going properly at United. There's no chance he would get that time now. But at least he had the backbone of the Aberdeen experience. Solskjaer has very limited experience, and he's done very well with that limited experience. But there's a monumental leap from the Man United reserves and Molde to manager of Manchester United for 2 years.
And that's why the inconsistency is there.
If Solskjaer survives to this summer and beyond, which he probably will, he'll be the longest serving United manager since Ferguson. And bear in mind, there's been 4 managers since, if you count Ryan Giggs' small tenure in 2013-14. So they're backing him completely. But United are doing well at the moment in spite of the running of the club, the lack of director of football, an incredibly inexperienced manager whose greatest asset in the job is that he absolutely adores the club and will do anything for it. But Mauricio Pochettino has proven that he is loyalty too. He's only in his 4th manager's job now, I think. Is it Espanyol, Southampton, Spurs and PSG. So he stays quite a long time at those clubs. So Mauricio Pochettino is not going to go to Man United with the view of going somewhere else very quickly. He'll probably stay there for a few years. And in modern football, you're looking to 3 to 5 years is a very long tenure. They'd be more than happy with that. With Solskjaer, I was saying to Owen yesterday, actually, when we were texting about this, I do believe that Solskjaer will be Man United manager more than once in his managerial career. And I think he will end up being what Gus Hiddink was to Chelsea, and we'll keep on going back to Solskjaer in times of crisis. But it's just so early in his career that he has this job for this long. And if United don't win the Premier League or Champions League under this regime and Solskjaer leaves, we'll know why. I mean, it was screaming at us every single day as we woke up that this is not right yet. I think Solskjaer should definitely remain at the club if he wanted to. He could have any role he wanted to. He could be in the first team managing squad. He's not going to do that now after being the manager. No. And that's a shame. That's a shame because he could have become brilliant. And he might become brilliant. And he is a good coach. But it's not fair to him.
Sorry, just on this. So this isn't just about Solskjaer. This is about Pochettino and regretting Pochettino. So you brought up the fact that Pochettino is in his fourth job, and you're painting him as this some sort of wise old owl who would replace the novice Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Solskjaer's in his fourth gig as well. If you give two for Molde, two different spells, Cardiff City in between, and Manchester United is his fourth. He's 1 year younger than Pochettino. Pochettino has won exactly how many trophies compared to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? You're not exactly comparing this great all-time gilded manager with Solskjaer here. There is still a little bit of risk, and I accept being devil's advocate here a little bit, because what he did to get Spurs to the Champions League final was astonishing. But if you look at his Premier League record, this came out after he got sacked. His win percentage in the Premier League with Spurs was 56%. Andre Villas-Boas, for example, had 54%. It's only 2% better than Villas-Boas. He had a worse win percentage than Tim Sherwood as his time as Spurs manager. In his away matches, against the rest of the top six, he played 27 times against them, and they only managed to secure 3 wins. That's akin to the Arsenal struggles that they've had against the rest of the top 6 away from home in recent years as well. I'm just saying that there's a little bit of risk to the Pochettino appointment, as much as that Champions League run was brilliant.
Pochettino's not God.
I never said that he was. I never said that he was
well,
bad.
You're trying to put on the agenda that they're going to regret the fact that they didn't get Pochettino.
Yeah, but like this is not a black and white argument. This is nuanced. I'm not saying Pochettino is perfect, and I'm not saying it doesn't come without risk. He hasn't won a trophy. I'm saying I think, my opinion is that he's the perfect man for the job. From what I see that he did at Southampton first and then Spurs.
All right.
That's what he did with that Spurs. He developed. I know we have to go, but that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm saying we missed our chance. We missed the boat.
All right.
He's gone now.
That's this week's first episode of AM Agenda. We'll see if it lives to fight another day. 087 180 180 is the number. If you want to put something on the agenda, text us, and we'll have that debate for you next week.